HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Overcome, a memoir of abuse, addiction, sex work, and recovery, by Amber Bunt, a.k.a. Karmen Karma. Read by Amber Bunt. To my daughter, Vienna, for giving me strength before you were even born. Everything in this memoir is 100% true as I remember it. Names and businesses have been altered for privacy. Small town girl. Everyone else my age had been planning what college they would attend, what their major would be. I never even bothered. While my classmates were Googling colleges in Michigan, I was doing searches for sexy stripper names. I earned the reputation of the class slut by the time I entered 6th grade. I knew the power of sexuality and that I was interested in pursuing it. I'd always craved a different type of lifestyle, and once I was 18, I was ready. I wanted to be a sex worker. Growing up in the middle of nowhere was probably beneficial for my troubled mind, but I always yearned for more. The small Midwest town of Houghton, Michigan had no malls, no clubs, no entertainment, nothing to do. As a teenager, weekend excitement mostly consisted of getting drunk in the Walmart parking lot with the other bored teenagers. From a young age, it was clear I was not meant to stay a small town girl. Girls dressing slutty, doing drugs, and partying in sweaty nightclubs without a care in the world. I'd seen it in movies and it all appealed to me. I knew I would never experience any of those things if I settled and stayed in Michigan. Besides, I'd already had sex with all the attractive and even some of the not so attractive boys in my town. And all of the girls already hated me for either sleeping with their boyfriends or because they were scared I was going to. It wasn't like I had friends to lose. It was time for a change of scenery. My dream was to become a porn star, but I decided to start small, and webcamming had always seemed like the logical place to start. To this day, I still can't remember how I even found out about it, but I know I was 17. And when I found out I could stay home in bed and make hundreds of dollars per day, you bet I signed myself up. Of course, the camming sites denied me because I wasn't 18, the legal age to be naked on the internet, but I've always been a rule breaker and a go-getter, so I came up with my own way to do it. I decided if I went on free camming sites and teased everyone to the point they were begging to see me naked, they would fork over some cash to actually see a show. Which is exactly what they did. After dancing around my room in front of my laptop for 5 minutes, I put out a message saying, "If you want to see more, add me on MSN Messenger, princess0carmen@live.com. Pay for play." The amount of men I had lined up to do webcam shows for was shocking. I scheduled them back to back and performed for hours in my room until I was physically exhausted. It gave me such a rush of adrenaline doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, but also a sense of power for being able to make money solely off my body. I refreshed my PayPal account. It jumped from the $0 balance from before my hours of camming to over $500. I was astonished to see I had earned that much by doing, in my opinion, pretty much nothing. From that day forward, I laughed at the thought of working a minimum wage job or being a broke college student. I started logging on every day to perform shows in my bedroom. I couldn't believe how quickly my bank account balance was growing. Once I turned 18, I signed up for every site I could possibly find. Everything was going picture perfect until the day my dad walked in on me doing a webcam show. We lived in an old house that had no locks on the bedroom doors, but since my family never bothered me, I didn't even give it a second thought. Little did I know my dad would barge in on me while I was naked for strangers to watch. "Get dressed and get in my room," my dad demanded as he marched from my bedroom doorway. I wanted to run out of the house and never come back, but I knew I had nowhere to run to. I walked into my dad's room and he was livid. Supposedly, I had been hacked. A pervert from Canada who was watching my webcam show tracked my IP address, which led to him finding my house phone number. He called my dad and whispered creepily, "I'm watching your daughter fuck herself." I started to consider moving as soon as possible. Not only was it mortifying to look my dad in the face, but after a year of nonstop webcamming, I was ready to move on to bigger and better things. I figured the next step was to start stripping. I hopped online and started researching the closest clubs, but there were none even remotely close to Houghton. I did find one about 4 hours away, though, in Green Bay, Wisconsin. After viewing the website and the reviews of the club, I quickly ruled it out as an option. The club was known for their older, overweight dancers and a commensurate lack of customers. That didn't match the glamorous image of a strip club I had in my mind. If I really wanted to move and start my new life, I only had one option: move to Florida to live with my mother, the woman I'd been terrified of since as early as I could remember, the woman who, when I was a child, told me she would kill me and abused me when my dad was at work. I was shocked to find myself even considering this as a legitimate option. I always laugh when my dad tells me the story of sitting me down with my younger sister to let us know that they were getting a divorce. Instead of us crying like he expected, I replied, "You mean we never have to see Mom again?" This was followed by us cheering in excitement, and it wasn't until he told us we would still have to see her once in a while that we broke down in tears. Why did I have to get ripped off in the mom department? I was 6 when my parents got a divorce, the same age I started seeing a therapist. After that therapist talked to me and my sister Jessica, she reported to the court the only way my mother should be able to see us was under court-supervised visits. Jessica is only 2 years younger than me, and she can remember living with her mom. My youngest sister, Amanda, was only 6 months at the time of the divorce, so she has no recollection of any of our mom's behaviors. Not having my mother be a part of my life seriously damaged me. It was painful to watch all of my friends' moms help out in school or Girl Scouts. I never had a mom to dress shop with me for prom, do my hair for me, or teach me about girly things. I dreaded every Mother's Day. It became a tradition very early for my sisters and I to make Happy Mother's Day, Dad cards in school. To this day, we still tell my dad Happy Mother's Day because he has done an amazing job being a mom and a dad all in one. But nothing could change the hurt I felt inside of not having a mother who cared. Although she scared the crap out of me and I hated her for never being there, I always longed for my mother. What did I do that made her threaten to kill me at only a few years old? Why was she always swearing and hitting me? Why did she leave her 3 children and never look back? There's no way someone who treated me like that could love me. And if my own mother couldn't love me, how could anyone? I still don't know the answer, and these questions affect me to this day. I have never believed anyone would stay in my life, whether in a romantic or platonic relationship. I have subconsciously tried to ruin every relationship I've ever had so that I could be the one that decides to leave. So that I could be the one doing the mistreating. I was permanently damaged by the pain my mother caused. Maybe this is the root of why I've always been so promiscuous. I've always accepted any attention thrown my way. Someone wanting me, even if only strictly sexual, was still someone wanting me. In my head, that was showing me love. In the past, I never turned down anyone who wanted to touch me or fuck me. Someone wanting me always felt so good. Of course, I knew this wasn't real love, but it still felt nice having someone want me, even if only for one night. I feel bad for my poor father. That woman completely ruined his credit score, was abusive to him, embarrassed him on a regular basis with her behavior, and damaged his reputation. And then she left him alone with 3 daughters and too many questions. Why couldn't you just give us a nice mommy? Why did you have to marry her? How come we couldn't have gotten a good mom? It wasn't my dad's fault, but I'm sure he has put a lot of blame on himself. I don't know if I'll ever truly recover from what she did to me in my childhood. I still cry in the middle of the night thinking of all the things I missed out on, not having a relationship with the woman who birthed me. My heart breaks a little inside every time I see a friend with their mom or someone posting online about how they could not survive without their wonderful mother. It still hurts, and it will always hurt. Here I was about to ask the same woman who ruined my childhood if I could move into her house at the start of adulthood. One text message later, and sure enough, she gave me the green light to move down to Florida to live with her. When I broke the news to my dad, he was in complete shock. He didn't understand why I would ever purposely put myself in the same city as her, let alone in the same house. What my dad didn't realize was that it was my escape from Houghton. It was my chance to move to a bigger city and live wild and free. I wasn't moving to be close to my mom. I was moving to become a stripper. After a 3-day cross-country drive, Pensacola, Florida was my new home. Moving to Pensacola from my small hometown was an enormous change. There were bars, nightclubs, a mall, and to my surprise, 4 strip clubs to choose from. I sat on my computer and researched all of the strip clubs to weigh out the pros and cons of each. Little did I know that by the time I would move out of Pensacola, I would have worked at all 4. Sammy's was the farthest away from where I was living, so that one automatically got disqualified. Escapes had the worst reviews, so that one was eliminated next. Now I had to decide between Infinity Island and Nightshade Show Club. Infinity Island called themselves a rock and roll titty bar, and while I wasn't really into rock music, it seemed like a good club. Then there was Nightshade Show Club, which was known as the urban strip club out of the bunch. I loved hip-hop music and I loved black men, but being a white girl from a small town, I played it safe and decided on Infinity Island. After driving back and forth past Infinity Island a few times, I finally got the balls to pull in their parking lot. It was an old, faded, pink 1-story building, and I could hear the rock music as soon as I got out of the car. Walking into a strip club for the first time, I had no idea what to expect. I considered turning around at least 3 times as I made my way across the parking lot. When I opened the door, I saw a man sitting at the desk and 2 strippers, clearly drunk, hanging all over him. I could tell that they expected a male customer to walk in the door by the way they stopped their conversation and stared at me. "How can I help you?" the manager asked me. "Are you hiring?" I shyly responded. When he asked me if I was looking to be a waitress or a stripper, I panicked. Maybe I should just start working as a waitress until I get comfortable with the strip club environment. I told him either. "We're not looking for waitresses, but if you want to dance, you can come here tomorrow for the night shift, 7 p.m. Stripping is what I sought out to do, so I was relieved when he made the decision for me. I asked him what to bring, and he told me to bring heels, a bra, and a tea bag. I had never heard the term tea bag before and felt stupid when I had to ask him what it was. The drunk girl hanging all over the manager's arm turned around and said, "This," pointing to her ass. She revealed a tiny piece of fabric, basically a G-string, that made a little T shape where it connected in the back. The thong was made specifically for strippers. The girl's name was Chloe, and she was pretty intimidating. She had long brown hair, naturally big boobs, small waist, and a perfect bubble butt. Little did I know this girl would end up introducing me to cocaine shortly down the road. I had accomplished what I set out to do and got a job as a stripper, very easily, in fact. This was my dream coming true. I walked out of the club with a smile, anxious for the next night. Naturally sexual. Unlike many women who end up as strippers, I wasn't doing it because I had to. I wasn't even doing it for the money. I was doing it because there was something burning inside of me to express my sexuality. For as long as I can remember, I've been sexual. It wasn't an act. I have always just been this way. I remember it was summertime and I couldn't have been older than 5. I walked downstairs in my one-piece swimsuit and my grandma yelled, "What the heck is that?" pointing to my obvious stuffed top. I had shoved hair ties over my flat chest to resemble the shape of breasts. Around the exact same age, my dad made me wear white tights in winter underneath my long denim skirt and snow pants. I remember being secretly angry that it wasn't revealing enough. I got to school in my snow pants and winter gear to play at recess before class started. When all of my classmates and I got inside our classroom and undressed at our cubbies, I pulled down my tights as I took off my snow pants. I went into the bathroom and looked in the mirror, satisfied with my sneakiness, and hiked my skirt up to my belly button to make it shorter. Much better. Then came 2nd grade, and my sexuality hadn't shown signs of slowing down anytime soon. We were cleaning out our desks in class, and I remember my friend Abigail whispering for me to come down to the floor with her. I laid down with her so she could tell me her secret. We should practice having sex. Abigail must have been able to see I was very confused. You know, for when we're older with boys. I wasn't sure what sex actually consisted of. I knew it was more than kissing, and I knew it was a taboo subject. I didn't want her to think I wasn't cool, so I agreed that it was a good idea. It was Abigail's 7th birthday party, and as soon as I got there, Abigail told me to go to her room with her. She took out a disposable camera and told me to take pictures of her as she pulled down her underwear. I nervously took the photos, thinking about what her parents were going to say when they took this film to get developed. She grabbed the camera from me and told me to pose too. So off came my underwear and we took naked photos of each other. 7 years old, and I had just posed for my first nudes. The rest of the party was normal until Abigail's mom went to bed. All 4 of us at the sleepover decided we wanted to watch Titanic. We got to the part where Jack draws Rose naked, and one of the girls, Cassidy, had the brilliant idea to take turns drawing each other naked. "Draw my privates like a grown-up, though," Abigail told Cassidy. We all took turns getting drawn, and I remember going to the bathroom with my drawing of me, complete with breasts and pubic hair, something that none of us were even close to having. I started to get a bad feeling that I was doing something wrong, and so I crumbled up the paper and I flushed it down the toilet. When I walked back out to the sleepover, I saw all the girls with their eyes glued to the television. Rose and Jack were having what we all assumed was sex. Abigail once again brought up the idea of practicing sex for when we're older, and we all agreed. We paired into groups of 2 and dry humped and kissed each other. I didn't have another sexual experience until 6th grade, and again, it was with another girl. Every time I would sleep at my friend Nicole's house, it was like a tradition that we would pretend we were sleeping at night and then start touching each other's vaginas. We would curiously touch each other for 10 minutes and then go to sleep, never speaking of what happened the next morning. At this point, and for many years later, I was fairly certain I was a lesbian. I talked to and dated boys, but that was only because I craved their attention. When it came to what I was turned on by, it was 100% women. Maybe I was a little bit scarred by what a family member did when I was younger, and it caused me to be fonder of women. I remember vividly when my mom's brother, who was a teenager at the time, locked me in his room with him. I sat on the bed and cried as he stripped completely naked and jumped on the bed, penis flinging in my face. He was laughing hysterically, and I kept covering my eyes. I can't remember anything after that. I don't know if my grandma came to my rescue, if he finally let me out of the room myself, or if anything else creepier happened. It's almost like my brain blocked it out. All I know is that it was traumatizing and wrong, and decidedly not how I wanted to see a penis for the first time. Middle school is when my reputation as a slut was born. I would let all the boys touch my butt in the hallways at school. Word quickly went around that I didn't care who touched my ass, and I became pretty popular. I began going to the movies with a group of 4 or 5 of the same boys every weekend, one whom was my middle school boyfriend. I would make out with him the whole movie, and every time he went to the bathroom or to get me a drink, the other boys would take turns sticking their hands down my pants. 8th grade was also the year I made up one of the biggest, stupidest lies I have ever told. I was at my friend Courtney's birthday party with about 10 other girls from our school. We were all in her pool gossiping about boys and sex when one of the girls asked if I had ever had sex before. Everyone knew I was spending a lot of time being groped by boys in our grade, so I assumed that's why she was asking. I paused for a moment, not knowing how to answer. Had I ever had sex before? Hell no. But with all 10 girls looking at me with such interest, I lied. The second the word yes left my mouth, the entire pool was echoing with screams and a whole lot of questions. Mostly they wanted to know, what did it feel like? I had everyone's attention and I needed to come up with something fast. Little did they know I was a virgin just like them, and I had no idea how to describe sex. With the most serious face I could put on, I told the group, "It feels like when you fall off a bike and scrape both of your knees at the same time." I'm not sure why that's how I pictured it, but I'm sure I scared the crap out of some of those girls for their future sexual encounters. After the birthday party, I didn't think too much about the lie I told, but when I got to school the next Monday, literally everyone knew I had sex, or at least they all thought I had. I was getting so many questions from all the girls and was getting touched even more than usual by all the boys. I knew this kind of lie was going to be hard to keep up with, but I didn't panic too much. It wasn't until my dad sat me down and told me we needed to have a talk that the panic really started to kick in. "So you've been having sex?" is not the words you want to hear coming from your father's mouth when you are 13 years old, especially when you are still a virgin. No, I swear to God, I shouted back. Emily's mom told me you are. Don't lie to me. I couldn't believe one of these tattletales went home and told their mom on me. The worst was that I was telling him the truth, but of course he didn't believe me. What 13-year-old would actually tell their dad the truth if they were having sex? I instantly regretted telling such a huge lie, but the damage was done. All of my classmates now thought I was sexually experienced, and so did my dad. I kept up with that lie the remainder of middle school and all throughout high school. If I could take back any lie I've told, it would probably be that one. Nothing was more frustrating than losing my dad's trust on account of something I didn't even do. I lost my virginity for real about a year after my sex rumors floated around school. I dated my high school boyfriend, Justin, for about 9 months or so before we finally decided to have sex. It was late spring in Michigan, and his family had a tent set up in their front yard. We snuck in there to fool around one weekend afternoon. I was so nervous to lose my virginity, but I felt like I was ready. Plus, everyone else already assumed I was having sex, so I might as well just be doing it. So right there in his front yard, he popped my cherry. Meanwhile, his dad mowed the lawn around us, having no clue we were inside the tent. I vividly remember looking down and the sun shined directly on his penis, his blood-covered penis. I was horrified and stopped having sex instantly. We didn't do it again for another month or so because I was so terrified. I stayed with Justin for almost 5 years, from the summer going into high school until a half year after we graduated. He was a really good boyfriend to me, and I was a really shitty girlfriend to him. Although I was faithful to him for the first couple years, it was mostly because I was so wrapped up in my eating disorder. I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa with bulimic tendencies at 14. My dad brought me to an outpatient program when I lost 30 pounds in a matter of months. During the worst of my eating disorder, I was fasting for 5 days straight, consuming only water, coffee, chicken broth, and vitamin C tablets. Whenever I would break my fast, it would turn into a disgusting binge. I would make Justin drive me to McDonald's, then Taco Bell, then devour his family's pantry before spending at least an hour purging. The bathroom was downstairs, and his mom always sat in the kitchen chain-smoking cigarettes. She knew all about my eating disorder, and I knew she would rat me out to my dad if she heard me puking in her bathroom. So instead, Justin would play Xbox Live with me 5 feet away, casually barfing into his garbage can. That was completely normal to us. Soon, his mom found out I was puking in his garbage, so she took it out of his room, and I resorted to puking into bowls or into his towels if I was desperate. When I was in 10th grade, I decided to go to prom, just not with Justin. Boys could only go to the prom if they were a junior or a senior. However, girls could go as early as 9th grade, as long as an older boy asked them. I can't remember whether Justin cared at all or had asked me not to go, but I don't think it would matter if he did. I still would have gone. After the prom was over, I decided to go with a different boy, not my prom date, to the after party. We were in a log cabin in the woods for maybe 3 minutes before the boy asked me if I wanted to go hook up in the car. I agreed, not knowing exactly what was going to happen. He sat in the back seat and immediately put on a condom, and that was the first time I ever cheated on someone. I had him drive me to my boyfriend's house afterwards. I woke up Justin to tell him I had just slept with someone else. It was almost like I wanted to brag to him. I didn't even think he would be mad at me because I always got what I wanted, and he was very laid back. I think that was mainly due to the fact he didn't even want to date me anymore, but felt like he had to, because anytime he talked of breaking up with me, I threatened to kill myself. Justin was upset that I had cheated on him for a couple hours, but we never talked about it again after that. The whole school sure did, though. I didn't cheat on him again until senior year came along, this time with one of his best friends, Michael. I wish I could even remember how the whole thing got started between us, but it lasted for a good 6 months. Justin was completely aware that I was having sex with Michael, but he never broke up with me for it. It's so weird to think back on now, but it was basically like I had 2 boyfriends and both boys knew their roles. Justin knew I was having sex with his friend, but we still dated like nothing else was going on, and I hung out with him almost constantly. Michael knew I was in a serious long-term relationship with Justin and wasn't planning on leaving him, but he was still obsessed with me. He would even shoplift diet pills and vodka from Walmart just to please me. I would spend a Friday or Saturday night getting completely wasted with Michael. And then the next morning, I'd have him drop me off at Justin's house. Michael ended up falling totally head over heels for me. I would tell him I loved him, but I didn't actually have any feelings for him. I just liked his attention, and I wanted to continue with the exciting love triangle we had going on. I took Michael's virginity, and to him, that was a big deal. He told me he wanted to marry me. That was way too much for me to handle. Plus, I wanted to marry Justin, so eventually we broke off the fling. He was heartbroken for years about it, even confessing his love for me 5 years later at a bar. Poor boy. Both of them. After graduating, Justin and I decided to take a year off between high school and college to decide what we wanted to do. I saw my entire future with that kid, even though I sure as hell did not act like it. I was devastated when one day Justin stopped answering my calls. I think I called him over 700 times in the course of those 48 hours, maybe more. He finally got the courage to tell me he was breaking up with me, something he probably should have done years before. I don't know whether he was sick of my cheating, my eating disorder, or my controlling behavior. Maybe it was the fact I had accidentally stabbed him when I was furious about him liking another girl's Facebook status. Whatever the reason, he was serious and he stuck to it. Now I was the heartbroken one. I sat in my room and refused to leave for weeks on end. Justin, being the great guy that he is, would stop over every week or so and drop off some fruit and some magazines because he knew I wasn't leaving my bedroom. After a month of sulking, I started to get back into webcamming and quickly made my decision to move to Florida and start a new life. I was tired of obsessing over where Justin was and living in the same small town as him. I was ready to run away and be a stripper. $1 bills. I had just been hired at Infinity Island the night before, and I was anxious to start my dream job. The only problem was that I had no idea what to wear. I didn't have any actual stripper heels, so I packed a high pair of black heels I already owned. I searched through my underwear drawer trying to find something that resembled the teabag they wanted me to wear. The closest thing I owned to that was a black lace thong that would have to do. I grabbed a bra and panty set I had already owned and figured it'd be perfect to wear for my first night. I knew I probably should have went to a sex store and purchased actual stripper wear, panties, shoes, but I didn't want to spend the little money I had. I planned on buying all new things with the money I earned my first night dancing. Whenever I imagined my life as a stripper, I pictured something glamorous. I couldn't believe tonight was the night I would finally get to live it. I walked into Infinity and signed in for the night shift. I learned quickly that you never wanted to be a day shift girl. That usually meant you weren't hot enough to work nights. After signing in at the front desk, I took my first steps into the club. It was the first strip club I had ever seen in person. There was a girl dancing on stage with no one paying her any sort of attention. The few customers were all sitting at a bar facing the opposite direction of the stage. It seemed a little odd, but I figured it would be busier later in the night. The manager told me to get ready for the night, and I made my way to the dressing room, which was far from what I expected. It was more like a large closet than anything. There was a small bathroom with a toilet barely connected to the floor, along with some lockers and a dirty mirror. I squeezed past a bunch of strippers whom I could feel were staring me up and down. There were about 20 small lockers already occupied, and with maybe 2 feet of room to move and get changed in front of the giant mirror, I started to feel insecure. I hated the feeling of being the new girl, so I didn't make eye contact with anyone. I figured if I just minded my business that everyone would leave me alone. That lasted a good 30 seconds until one of the girls asked who I was. I told the girls my name was Karmen and it was my first night dancing. No one said anything. Without hesitation, I had picked the same name I used when I was webcamming. At this point, I had already been going by Karmen, with a K, for 2 years. I debated between Aubrey and Karmen, but eventually settled on Karmen. It wasn't until I started seriously considering doing porn that I knew I would need a last name. I loved the way Karmen Karma sounded, but I didn't like how the C and the K looked. I made the obvious choice and changed Karmen to Karmen with a K. I wasn't sure if I was actually ever going to do porn at that point, but I used it on my camming sites in the meantime. I started changing into my stripper outfit for the first night of dancing when one of the girls seemed genuinely concerned about what I was wearing. It turned out that the teabags weren't just something random my manager wanted me to wear for no reason. They were mandated by law. Legally, there had to be one in.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?